Hey friends and family, I have a gift for you today. This is one of my big brothers. He's somebody that inspires me. He's also my preaching coach. I want to introduce you to my man, Pastor Brian Bullock.
What's going on, man? We're in the building, and the fact that you're calling me a preaching coach now, I gotta preach really well. So, I'm hoping that I communicate well today. But thank you, man. I love being here, and dude, you're one of my favorite communicators. I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you kidding me? I'm gonna clip that. I'll throw that on my social media. That validates me. So thank you, B.
The first time I heard you speak was at Teen Challenge.
Wow.
I drove up. You was talking to a group of men, who are obviously on their road to recovery. And you crushed it, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I remember you were there, front row. I totally remember that. Out in Brockton.
Yep, out in Brockton.
That's crazy. Memory lane right now.
Yeah.
So today what I wanted to do is, I love communication. It is a huge passion of mine. It is certainly a huge passion of B's. And you are a world-class communicator. There's no questions about it. You are mastering social media. You're mastering even the motivational world right now with Motiversity, even talking about, preaching and teaching to churches and conferences. And so you're a sought-after communicator. I really want to just dive in deep and get into the practicals about it.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to say nowadays. There's a big difference between talking and communicating. Talking doesn't mean people are listening to you. Communicating does. Communication is like you hit a string with somebody, and now communication is completely different because we're communicating digitally.
Yes.
And so even on churches on Sundays, because of COVID, what we see as a problem can actually be a huge gift. I think there's a huge gift that God gave the church, which is to learn how to communicate and communicate digitally. Now, nowadays what happens is people can tune you out quickly if you just don't have their attention.
Oh yeah.
Like so
Click,
fast.
click.
Seriously.
Yep.
So you're in the middle of a 35-minute sermon and people will join in 15 minutes into it, or they'll see in the beginning. And if you don't capture their attention within the first few seconds, they're gone. And so I want to talk about that a little bit because you've gone viral in every different platform. You have people listening to your words have weight. And I just want to ask questions like how? How have you gotten to that place and space? And so before that, just as a context, so I invested into this, which by the way, I would love for you to talk about this, is our Speakeasy course. So I invested because Brian and Manny Arango, and Manny, if you're watching this, I love you to death too. They are my preaching coaches. And so some of us have so many gifts and talents, especially in this area, but you don't have much training. I got training, I got the how-tos, and I'm honestly, it was some of the best money I invested in. And I also believe you're doing something else soon.
Yes.
I hope that's not, I don't know it's not common knowledge yet, but maybe you can release it. That's an exclusive right here on Devon Frye YouTube channel. That's so weird. Anyways, I think I want to just pick your brain, how have you gotten to where you're at? And give us some tips, some pointers about communication.
Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing, number one, is speak or speak. And you'd be surprised that people miss that first step. I'm a speaker. Where do you speak at? Nowhere. I haven't spoke yet. I'm just, what do you mean? I think that speakers speak. And the number one thing that helped me as a speaker was I was speaking. I just had the advantage of speaking at a young age. I gave my first sermon when I was 7 years old. I was at a church where, when the Bible teacher, our Bible teacher is so bad, what I'm about to say, he had sickle cell. So he'd get sick randomly. And what would end up happening is I'd be sitting in class and there would be no one to teach our Sunday school Bible class. And I just get up and start teaching it, And when I look to the door and he's not there yet, I just get up and just start teaching.
That's literally being prepared in and out of season.
Literally being prepared in and out of season. When there was something at school that was going on, they'd ask me to say something or to teach or to speak.
Wow.
And I took every opportunity to speak. I joined something called Teen Empowerment that was going on in Massachusetts, in my city, where we just spoke to other young people. And I'm amazed at how many people want to speak who don't speak. And I think that you have to position yourself to speak, which is why the beauty of technology today, you have a platform to start speaking.
So good.
Because there's some things that only come through steps. And speaking is one of those things, you cannot elevate yourself to being a better speaker. You can only step your way to being a better speaker. You can't just wake up one day and be a worldwide communicator. Nope, you're gonna have to be terrible. You're gonna have to mess up. You're gonna have to say welcome to Chicago. When you're in Boston, you're going to have to forget your notes. You're going to have to stumble over your words.
We've all had some war stories communicating.
You're going to, dude, I'm going to tell you one of the worst things I ever did when I preach. I'm going to tell you one of my horrific preaching stories, okay? This is embarrassing. What I'm about to say is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to even share this. My first time speaking at Jubilee, okay? Jubilee is one of the local churches here in Boston. And I'm so excited. And I decide I'm going to preach on this story. And I'm talking about how Jesus heals the man who is invalid. And I do this whole thing on, this man is invalid, meaning he has no name. God, just sometimes you might feel invalid. Sometimes you might feel like you're ignored. Nobody knows. We don't even say his name because he's invalid. But God says you are valuable. And I do this whole thing. And then afterwards, Pastor Matt comes up to me. He said, man, a great sermon, but that word's not invalid, it's invalid. And I was like, oh, I'm thinking he's never gonna let me preach again. It's over. I cried in my car. I was depressed for hours. And I realized that is what makes great speaking. You have to speak.
That's so good.
You gotta be terrible for a while, because on the other side of terrible is good. And if you do it long enough and you do it with the right principles and stuff in place, either you're going to learn this is not what I do, but most likely you're going to learn I can do it better.
So good. I want to talk about that with coaching. So don't let me forget that point of conversation. But he gave such a practical tip that many of us didn't have when we were younger. I didn't have this. It just kind of came out when I was in high school, but a digital platform. So you have a platform. You have the ability to get some reps and some repetition, even grow an audience and to communicate and add value to them. Don't skip past that. So if you don't have a physical platform to speak on, you can literally start doing it today. And so that's the beauty of social media. But you also mentioned, you have to just kind of suck to get your way there.
Gotcha.
It's steps.
Steps.
And I just remember I have so many different fails and horrible things that I said. I can't even say some of them on camera because it's just so bad. But I just remember for me, there was one time I'm preaching, I'm emceeing, I was kind of hosting the moment, and there was an exhortation moment is what it was. And I just start talking and going off, and I'm just preaching, and my, veins are popping, spit's flying, and I say something like, I go, Jesus is, I meant to say the reason for our existence. It was a Christmas service, reason for our existence. I said, he's the bane of our existence. And I'm like, that's the most anti-biblical, such a heretical I'm like, what am I doing?
He's the bane of my existence.
And literally the whole crowd was in the moment, and everybody was like, what did you just say? Jesus is the reason for our existence. Anyways, it's so bad. You have to just it takes steps. You're growing. That muscle has to grow. So the stage has changed though. And so now with COVID, even pre-COVID, the stage has been changing quite a bit. And so it goes from a platform and a pulpit to now it's really an online audience. Can you talk to us a little bit about online communication? Because I think this is a change that's here to stay.
Yeah, I think your ability to look into your phone and say something that's worth listening to is the most powerful skill you can have in this day.
That's right.
It's the way we are selling product. It's the way presidents are campaigning. It is the way that we're even convincing our parents to put on their masks or stay at home. We're communicating a thought through a camera and saying something that's worth listening to. And I think that everyone has to develop the skill because it's not going anywhere. It's actually going to become more common every single day.
The stage has changed.
And so, yeah, I had a very unhealthy relationship with social media. I was totally anti-social media. I was against Facebook. I was against Instagram. You're never going to catch me on there.
Same. I was the same way.
Yeah, but there are two stories in the Bible. One story where Jesus heals a woman because she wanted to touch the hem of his garment. And because of that, he heals her that way. But then there's a story of a centurion whose servant is sick. And he says, don't come to my house, just send the word.
Send the word.
And Jesus says, I got
so
you.
Good.
And the Lord is saying, look, whether it's up close, a touch, I can get it done that way. Or whether it's through distance, I can get it done that way.
So good.
But the healing power of the Lord, it's good for the person who's in the room, but it's also good for the person who may be far away. And so you got to get to a place where you can do both. You need to be able to communicate to somebody who wants to just touch you, touch the hem of your garment, and communicate to somebody who's saying, don't come to my house, just in the video, we'll be all right. I think that's powerful.
So good. So you're one of the most masterful communicators when it comes to capturing attention through, it's not just the words you use, it's your body language, it's what you're wearing, it's the topic, it's the title. Can you talk about capturing attention? Because that's what the world is fighting for right now.
Yeah.
So we have to be, I was listening to, I think it was a TED Talk, and he goes this, write this down. You have to be intentional about being attention getting. So you have to be intentional about being attention getting. I think you capture attention, and then as you capture attention, you can actually capture their heart. You do that so well through your legacy prayers, through YouTube, through sermons. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think you win people within the first 30 seconds of your message. Some people will say first 8 seconds. I mean, you get a small window to introduce yourself and to grab someone's attention. For me, I'm speaking for me personally because you and I have different styles, and I think both of our styles there's a commonality between both of our styles. But let me just say the difference first. I'm a heart preacher first. Some people are head preachers first. Some people teach head first, heart second. I'm heart first, head second, which means I'm more. I'm gonna pull and tug on your emotion almost before I tug on your mind. Where there's some people who are the opposite. They are going to hit your mind. They're going to slap your mind silly, and then kind of get your emotions to that spot. But I think the commonality between us both is solving people's problems. At the end of the day,
100%.
At the end of the day, I heard Bishop Jakes say it this morning. Bishop Jakes was saying to a group of pastors, he was saying, stop using your congregation as therapy. Like, this is not a therapy session.
Wow.
They didn't come to hear about how sad you are. They didn't come to hear about your gripe with your mother. They have problems. Solve the problem. I promise you. Whether you are a speaker who screams, whether you are a speaker who sits in a chair, whether you're a speaker who yells and runs, whether you're a speaker who just stands flat foot, the commonality of winning is, will you help me solve a problem? And I recognize that the person who I'm talking to, some of them are thinking about getting divorced. Some of them are thinking about committing suicide. Some of them are trying to figure out what's my life's purpose. Some of them are trying to figure out, am I staying in this marriage? Do I want to raise these kids? They all got stuff. And they just want to know, can you speak to my heart? Can you help me with this issue? If you cannot, I don't care how cute you are. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference. I don't want to hear you. And so the moment you can learn how to conduct a speech that can solve a person's problem in 20 minutes, no one has the time to be entertained by what you have to say.
100%. So you talked about this in Speakeasy. You talked about how you start with a topic before you start with a text. And so I love that because it set me free almost. I think old school communicators, and not that it's bad, it's just different. I think there's different ways we all communicate. We start with problems, and then we find passages for those problems and find a prescription through them. I think that was you that shared that is, problem, prayer, a passage, and then a prescription.
Yep.
Those 4 P's is how you kind of do it. So when you have, conversations, counseling appointments, that's really where, guys, you're gaining your content from. So I'm a good preacher because I'm a good pastor. So you talk to people, you have interactions with people, and that's how you gain the content, and that's how you have conversations, and then you have the ability to communicate and sermonize those topics. So that's how you start. You start with topics, and then you get the text, and then how to go from there.
Yeah, I think different things at different times. I mean, it depends what season of life I'm in. I'm at a point now where when someone calls me and they say, hey, man, can you come speak at my church or at my event? Typically, they have a vision for the event. Even at my own church, my pastor will say, hey, we need more volunteers. We're really trying to gear into volunteering. I don't say to my pastor, well, the Lord has moved on me. I found a text, and the text, I can't go away from this text. I got to, no, that's out of order. It's like, okay, so you want me to speak on volunteerism? Oh, there's a passage for that. For me, here's how I start every sermon I write. I ask this one question. Who do I want a person to become as a result of hearing this message? I literally write that down. And I envision who a person will become by what I say. I don't preach for necessarily inspiration. I preach for transformation. I think about my audience, what I want them to look like when I'm done. So if I'm talking about volunteerism,
So brilliant.
I start thinking about maybe this person's gonna leave this more confident about themselves. They're gonna leave here with a community now.
That's good.
They're gonna leave here saying, I'm more active. They're gonna leave here more alive in what they're doing. So what do I need to say to get them there? What points do I need to get them there? And when you start to develop your sermons that way, you will always win, because you've set a tone for, I'm doing this for your transformation and not your entertainment.
It's so good. Oh, we teach this to our communicators class. So I teach communicators class. We have 13, 14 students at this point. One of these days, I would love to have you just come in and just rip them apart. And
I love it.
Answer questions and all that kind of stuff. But we talk about, there's really 3 different types of voices. You have a pastoral voice, a practical voice, and a prophetic voice. And that's not an exhaustive list necessarily, but that's kind of the lane that we all kind of run into. And so I think you have so many different pieces of it. Yeah. So can you talk about this? Because I've heard people say it to me. I think people would maybe categorize it as you're a preacher.
Yes,
Somebody would say, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
And I wrestle with that because like, as soon as I heard that, maybe it's the rebel in me, maybe it's the 8 on the Enneagram with me, but I'm like, okay, they labeled me in a box. I can't just teach, I can also preach. I'm a passion guy too.
Yeah.
And so I think we label people in boxes sometimes, but speak to that a little bit. Should I just lean into, I'm a teacher? Or would you say you have to know yourself a lot more? What would you say to somebody that puts you in that box?
Man, this is a very in-depth topic. And there are a lot of people who have various views on this. My personal view, and I can only base this on the greats that I've seen. All the greats that I've seen they found a lane, they found a space, and they have perfected it. All the preachers I know, they perfected preaching. They just perfected it. All the teachers I know, they perfected teaching. Some people can do all things. But most people, can I call out names? Please. Look at Joel Osteen, okay? I know people all around the world who watch Joel Osteen. And Joel Osteen just decided, this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to talk the way I talk. And he does it every week, and you want to listen to it. I just feel like you have a voice that's unique to you. I'm the same way. I can't stand when somebody says, all you're going to do is just hype them up. You just a hype up guy. I can't. I just want to bite somebody's head off. Like, what you mean? What are you trying to say? I got more content in my head than you can imagine. But I really think that your style is your style. Perfect your style. Don't let people box you in, but feel comfortable with your style, because here's the thing. People want to know what they're going to get when they get you. And if you switch too much.
This was so helpful for me when you were teaching us. Keep
if
going.
you switch too much, now I'm confused. I don't know what I'm going to get. We talk about sports. And you look at a guy like LeBron James. LeBron James, people say, man, you don't know how to shoot. You just pass. And at the end of the day, his game is his game. And he's decided, I can win with passing, though. Yeah. Jordan decided, I can win with scoring. And you got to find out, I can win with preaching. And I can win with teaching. And I can't just switch up all the time. Because if I switch too much, now the people who are coming to see me, they're just not sure what to expect. And when I don't know what to expect, it gets confusing. People are on Kevin Hart right now because Kevin Hart released a comedy special, and people didn't feel like it was one of his best. And why is that? Because they were used to him being a certain way. And he's trying to switch it up a little bit, and it's confusing them. So I think as a communicator, the best communicators I know are the most consistent communicators. Be consistent with what you do. If you utilize all your gifts, the problem with us is that we have other gifts that people just haven't seen yet. So if you have other gifts, have them. But listen, there are preachers who kill it from a chair. Kill it from a chair. There are some preachers who love being flat foot, kill it flat foot. There are people who you're going to run around, rip your jacket, and roll on the floor. Go for it, kill it. Especially if I know that's what I'm going to get. I think it's powerful.
For sure. Yeah, so like I was watching you, and you're a animated communicator, preacher, and I wouldn't say I'm not animated, but there was one time I tried, I'm like, I need to be more like Brian. I'm like, it just doesn't feel me. I feel like I was putting on Saul's armor. Like, no, this is my shepherd's staff.
Said it.
So I feel that we have to know ourselves first. because communicating and preaching is so vulnerable because it's you and God's word, but we have to master kind of our crafts. But I think it's important to develop strengths and get better and get healthy and get stronger, but you have to know your lane for sure.
Absolutely. Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice and another they will not follow. This is something that I need every communicator to understand. Everyone's not going to be into your style. Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice. Another they will not follow. In other words, look at the ministry of Jesus. One thing that I've never heard people preach about the times Jesus taught and the people who said, yeah, I heard it and it didn't do anything for me. Like
Wow.
There were people, even Jesus said when he started talking about there's a sower who's sowing seed and that the word is like seed. And 75% of the seed went on ground that
didn't recognize it.
Jesus said, even when I preach, it's only 25% of the people are catching what I'm saying.
That sets me so free, B. That is so free.
There were people who heard Jesus and said, yeah, it didn't move me because my sheep hear my voice. And you have to recognize, be okay that every audience doesn't want you. Every room doesn't need you. Be okay with the fact that, yeah, this audience is like, that's not my style. We're so offended with, you don't like my style. Like, yeah, I don't like your style. That's not my style.
And that's okay.
We have to be okay because I call it the Tyler Perry principle, okay? Tyler Perry became a billionaire off of one character named Medea. Medea is not even the most famous character in the world. Like, the average person doesn't even know who Medea is. And some of the people who know Medea don't even like the character. But Tyler Perry says, I don't care because there's an audience that loves Medea. And I'm just going to throw out Medea movies every 2 weeks.
And he made money.
And he became a billionaire. You know how many people don't like that character? There are millions of people who will never see a Medea movie. It did not stop Tyler Perry from becoming a billionaire.
Wow.
And you are losing out maybe on billions because you're trying to win an audience you weren't called to. You're trying to win a group of people who's just not into your style.
That's so good.
If you find your sheep, you'll speak forever.
So good.
So find your lane, own your voice, and your sheep will follow.
That's incredible content. What do you see? So you see the landscaping, because you've been communicating and preaching now for years, decades, right?
Yes, sir.
So
I'm 37, so 30 years I've been preaching.
You started at 7 years old.
7 years old.
You told me that recently.
I'm in the game.
Incredible. So you've gotten to see a lot of different communicators, a lot of different voices, a lot of different styles, a lot of different churches. What do you see are some things that you are encouraged by from young communicators? And then the flip side, what are some things that young communicators or communicators, period, need to stop doing? So what do you need to start doing, stop doing, and what are we doing well?
Man, one of the things I love about this generation is our ability to be transparent. And I think that I was taught from a generation that transparency appalled them. They ran from transparency as much as possible. They just believe and let me not demonize them because I can, but I'm not. But I think in their mind, it was just preach the text, teach the text. Don't ever get involved with the text. Don't ever put yourself in the text. But what's happened is that there's a generation now of people who read the text on their own and they're saying, yeah, but how do I apply this?
Yeah.
What does this look like? And what I love about this group of people is that the speakers today are willing to tell their stories. They're willing to own their mistakes.
I love you said it. You said that in the class that we invested in, where you were saying people don't just buy into your ideas, they buy into you.
They buy into you.
And so you have to tell who you are, give your soul and the scriptures.
I tell my story. The most memorable part, I hate to say this, but it's so true. The most powerful and memorable part of when I speak is when I show a picture of my family. Every time I show a picture of my family, everything I say after that, it's like people are like, I'll listen to you now. The greatest...
Because there's not a chasm between the pulpit and the audience now.
I'm a normal guy.
Yeah.
And I emphasize that when I speak. What makes people listen to me, it's the weirdest thing when you really think about it, is when I introduce my family. Because I tell people, this is my wife, and my wife is, a Hispanic woman, and she's on me. She loves me, but she's on me, My daughter loves me. And then my son is crazy. No, I'm playing. He's nuts. That's not. And it's like, you're human. Got it. Because every person who used to preach to me did not feel like a human. And because
They feel
did
like
not,
a superhero.
and they feel like a superhero,
Yeah.
but it's the Jesus model.
Yeah.
The whole thing of Jesus is
came
I
to
came
heaven,
from heaven to
down to earth.
become a human. And can you leave heaven long enough to be a human for these
Oh.
people for 20 minutes?
B.
You know what I'm saying?
Come on,
Just
man.
be a human. Get in some flesh.
So good.
Smell like us.
Seriously.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that I think I love about this generation. What I hate about this generation is, and what we need to stop doing is, I think we are so into looks. And when I say looks, I'm not talking about fashion. I'm just talking about we just try to look bigger than what we are. And we're just, my pastor says two things. He says, you have to preach what you practice. You have to practice what you preach, but you have to preach what you practice. And I think that guys aren't practicing enough to preach from. They haven't lived a life worth preaching yet.
Wow.
And it's like, yeah, you have a story and I love your transparency, but live a life worth preaching about. Apply principles, build something, do something.
Yeah, we have people that are preaching that haven't built something. They don't have weight behind their
There's
words.
no
So it's
weight.
theories, it's ideas.
It's ideas. There's no weight behind your words.
Yeah.
And some of that just comes with time, but some of that comes with obedience to the word. Some of that comes with making some real hard sacrifices. You got to pay a price for the anointing. You have to pay a price to be great. You have to pay a price. Like, dude, there's pain behind this leather jacket. Don't let the leather jacket fool you, okay? There's scars underneath here. And what made doubting Thomas, as we call him, believe in Jesus, what I think is so remarkable about this Savior is that even after he resurrects, he leaves proof of his scars.
Wow.
And we just have, y'all just so clean. There's no scars on you. You're talking, but where are the scars? Well, show me. I've been through the fire and through the flood. Part of that is because one of the things, even though that generation wasn't necessarily transparent, one of the things they made sure that we were in the furnace. They made sure we were in the cave. They made sure that we were in prayer. They made sure that we knew the word. They made sure that we were fasting. They made sure that we were for real about this.
Yeah.
They weren't playing around. They were like, you go and get into this thing. And I just find that today's generation, they want followers, but they don't want the fire. And I'm telling you that the fire will bring the followers.
So good.
And so get on fire, man. Get in the fire. I met Jesus the same way Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego met him. When they threw them in the fire and they looked in, they said, I threw in 3, but I see a 4th man. And that's how I learned Jesus. Somebody threw me in the fire.
So good.
And when they looked in, they saw a 4th man standing there. And because of that, me and the Lord are connected.
B, I'm about to throw my phone right now, dude. What in the world? This man is preaching. He's preaching. You said this, and follow up on this thought, and tell me, maybe you disagree with it, but you said, Jesus, he even models this, he shows his scars. Mm-hmm. As a leader, as a communicator, he shows his scars. Yeah. I think there's a big difference between, showcasing your scars and then bleeding all over stage too.
Absolutely.
So I think you see it's foolish when people are bleeding all over stage. You can see there's still hurt in their heart.
Absolutely.
There's still bitterness or rage in their heart, and then they're communicating that, and that's the food that they're serving their audience.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that there needs to be significant healing. Not that there's perfection, but there's significant healing done, because when a hurt man goes in the pulpit or a hurt woman goes in the pulpit, dangerous things can happen after the fact.
Absolutely.
I feel like this is something that we need to address as leaders, as communicators. You taught me this, is you need a counselor.
Yeah.
You need a pastor, you need some friends, you need a counselor.
Yes.
And so we need to make sure we are taking care of ourselves, because out of a healthy heart, we can preach healthy words.
Yeah.
And instead of sick food, it's healthy food, because we are healthy on the inside.
Yeah, and it's the difference between I'm preaching for me and I'm preaching for you. and I'm preaching for you. I'm not doing this. I'm solving a problem for you. And even though I enjoy it, one of the things this happened to me one time, I was in a restaurant and the waitress, when she came to our table, she sat down and she said, man, I'm so tired. I've been up all day and I just need to sit down for a second. And I'm sitting there saying, can you just get our food? I don't necessarily want to know if my waiter's hungry. If my waiter came to I haven't eaten in days. I'm looking at y'all food. It looks amazing. It's like, I don't want to know that,
don't need that,
because it means that you're not serving me anymore. It means you're serving you.
Wow.
And the job of the preacher, the job of the speaker is to serve them. And so even though I'm hungry, I was fathering my youth when I was a youth pastor, and I didn't have no kids of my own. They didn't know that I would go home and say, God, when am I going to get kids? But then I had to go and be a father to other people's kids. That's the job. That's what we do. I'm serving you. And by serving you, so a preacher or speaker who bleeds from the stage, they're saying, look at me. It's about me. It's about my problem, what I'm going through, how I feel. And that's dishonorable to the call. Your job is to serve.
So powerful.
And we serve tired. We serve sick. We serve when something happens to our kids. We serve when something's going on in our lives. We serve, we teach, we serve, we teach. Even Jesus on the cross dying is getting a thief into heaven. You know what I'm saying? It's like he can't stop.
Can't stop.
Because this is the call. It's the burden that we bear.
That's so good.
I don't know why when I'm going through pain, I'm still able to serve you. It's the call. It's the gift. It's what the Lord has given to me. I don't know why that when nails are in my hand, I still want to say, Father, forgive them. I still want to serve you with nails in my own hand.
So good.
And so that's just the call. It's the burden of what we carry. So no, we're not bleeding from the pulpit. We're not bleeding from the stage. We show our healed scars because it is a sign that I've been through something. I came out on the other side, and I'm allowed to tell you about it.
So good. What you did is something that I feel is so powerful as a weapon for communicators, which was you saw your waitress, she sat down, and then you extracted a principle from it. Yeah. And so something we teach our class is there's a sermon everywhere. Things are sermonizing and preaching to you. And when you're a communicator, things are trying to communicate to you. Yeah. You just have to have those lenses and those eyes to watch that. So you literally have to just be like head on a swivel everywhere. I'm like, there's a sermon over here. I remember this one time, one of the things about having kids is they constantly are giving you illustrations. Yeah. So my son Zion, he walks into this room, he sees this long full-length mirror, and he goes up to it and he starts talking to it, and he kissed himself. He was like, he thought he saw somebody and he ended up kissing himself. And I remember just watching that, and I'm just like, I want to have that same mentality. This was the principle I extracted, is I'm watching Zion love himself. And we need people, and we need to be like these people where I can look in the mirror and I don't see burdens, I don't see hurt, I see Jesus in me. And then I want to be like that. I want to love myself. Yeah. Because the Bible says very clearly you have to do that. This is our way. So there's sermons that are happening everywhere. Yeah. So talk about that a little bit. The art of capturing messages and stories.
I got into a debate with somebody about this on Instagram yesterday, because I posted something like this on my Instagram. I'm sharing just a story, and I'll use different things all the time. I'll say a story about my kid, and so this person was on my Instagram saying, "This is not the word. This is what preaching has come to. Where's the scripture?
You gotta love those guys.
Where is the, first of all, I'm saying, dude, this is a 60-second clip, all right? You want me to, it's a 60-second clip of a 60-minute sermon.
That's how Jesus communicated too.
But that's what I told him. I said, let me ask you a question. Do you realize that this is how Jesus taught? So Jesus taught in parables. And he taught in parables so that those who didn't have an ear to hear wouldn't understand, but those who did could say, oh my Lord, he's talking to me. Here's the thing that nobody says about Jesus' parables. They're not true. These are analogies. People debate that people will tell you, scholars will tell you that the prodigal son was not a real person. It was a story that the man with 100 sheep who leaves the 99 to go after the one, it's a story. That the woman who's trying to find her coin that's lost is a story. That Jesus will walk around and say, the kingdom of heaven is like this. You know what I'm saying? The kingdom of heaven is like, he's using stories. And I told this person, I said, so you're saying because he didn't quote the Pentateuch, because he didn't quote the Torah, it's not truth? Mm-hmm. The Bible says that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. There is a truth that can be revealed in almost anything that will set you free.
So true.
The truth of the gospel will set you free, but it can be revealed in many different ways. You can look at your son and see the truth that sets you free. You can watch a movie and see the truth that sets you free. You don't have to be reading the Bible to see the truth that sets you free.
It's so good.
We can be doing something and say, OMG, I just saw the truth that sets me free. And I think that is what makes the gospel so profound. And it's the reason why you can't kill Christianity. Because scholars don't understand how we can be looking at the same book and you want to cry and give your life to Christ. And I just want to write a paper on this. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a truth that sets people free.
That's so good.
That only those who has an ear to hear and eyes to see can see.
And God is speaking through everything. I love how you said it. You said movies, it's books, it's being out in culture, it's burning bush, it's donkeys. He speaks all the time. And the question is, we just got to tune in and listen and have eyes to see. I remember watching the Suicide Squad movie. So I love Will Smith, one of my favorite actors. So I'm watching this. There's a scene with Joker and Harley Quinn, and the Joker turns to Harley and he goes, "Hey, would you die for me?" She goes, "Of course I would." And he goes, "No, that's too easy. Would you live for me?" And then she jumps off this thing and goes into this vat. It's a crazy scene. But I just remember hearing that, literally being like, I turned to my wife, I go, "I just got a sermon." Yeah. She goes, "What do you mean? This is the Joker and Harley Quinn." And the question God asks us is not, would you die for us? Yeah. That's what Jesus did. The question is, would you live for me? Yeah. So that's the correlation. God is always speaking. Yeah. Always speaking through messages, through sermons, through movies, through culture, through life. He's always speaking. We have to be listening and capturing those types of stories. Real quick, I want to transition. How important is coaching? How important is investment? And how important is it if you have a gift, this is what I've always taught, if you have gifts, you need mentors to pull those gifts out of you. God gave you the gifts, but mentors pull them out of you. Yeah. And so you're one of mine. You're somebody that I've learned a lot from when it comes to communication. Speak on that a little bit to some of these people that are hungry, want to grow, and want to be world class. Yeah, we're living in a time where people are always talking about investment property. I'm about to get me some investment property. Get me some rentals, you know what I'm saying? And I always tell people that you are the best investment property you can ever put your money into. Oh my God, me. Like, you are an investment property. That's so good. You are worth putting your money into. You're trying to tell me you're gonna only put your money into real estate. You are the real estate. And I think that so many people are struggling when they don't have to, when there's world-class information out there that could change a person's life. But you have to be willing to invest in yourself. Yeah. I heard this quote years ago, and it said, "You will be exactly who you are in 5 years, except for the books you read and the people you meet." And I think that what changes you more than anything is information. And when you get in the company of the right people, it's like literally finding someone who has a key to a door that's been locked in your life. And they literally put the key in the door and unlock something that was there that you did not know was there. Wow. And I wish that more people would say, I'm looking for people with keys who can unlock doors in my life and in my mind. And in order to do that, you have to invest in e-courses. You have to get on a flipping plane and go to a conference. Come on. What are you doing? Get on a plane and go into a conference. Wear a mask and go to a conference. Like, invest. Get a book. Yeah. And read one a month. Find mentors in your city and invite them to coffee. Can we go to coffee? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about mentors and successful people. Successful people are willing to pour water onto sponges. If you are a sponge, they will pour water into you. So good. But ain't nobody trying to pour no water into something that's dry and that's not going to utilize the information that they're giving. But if you look like someone who's going to soak in what's being said, a mentor would love nothing more than to go to coffee with you
and to give you some instruction.
100%.
And I just think that you'd have to start investing in yourself. I have reaped so many blessings from investing in myself. It's funny, like just my smile, my teeth used to be messed up. My teeth was jacked up. And I remember saying to myself, I'm asking people to stare at me for 60 minutes. Everyone wants to take a picture with me. Why don't I fix my teeth? And I just remember going into the dentist, and the dentist said that I can get Invisalign. I never forget, she said it's going to be 2 years, $4,000. And I remember saying, there's not a chance on God's green earth that I'm going to spend $4,000 on my teeth. Let them be crooked. And I just remember what I said to you. I'm an investment property. If I had a rental property and the furnace went out or the windows were broke and it was cost $4,000 to fix the plumbing, I'd pay the $4,000. Man, I'll tell you something. I put that $4,000 away. You get it? I put it in my teeth. And everywhere I go, people compliment me on my smile. And I feel more confident when I'm speaking.
Good.
And I take hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures with people all the time. I'm in the airport. Can we take a picture? And I got a book cover that's got thousands of people who have bought this book. And on the book cover, it's these $4,000 teeth. Just smiling. And think about that. I'm on a book cover and I'm on people's graphics. You invite me to an event and you're putting my face up. And I'm just smiling. I've probably made tens of thousands of dollars from a $4,000 investment in my teeth. So invest in yourself. It may cost you money, but you're going to get that back. Find a coach. It may cost you time, but the time you're going to get back from not having to waste on stuff that you didn't know what you were doing, you're going to get it back.
And you have an incredible ROI on your investments, specifically in yourself. You have, you've gone viral online. You're in this motivational speaking space. Yes. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I know you're coming out with a course soon talking about motivational speaking, talking about communication. Give any plug you want for that, because I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I was approached. I did an interview on YouTube with someone on their show, and someone saw it and recommended me to a company called Motiversity, which is the largest motivational channel on YouTube with 1.25 million subscribers. And their views, they get millions of views on their content. People watch it for motivation every single day. And I told them, I'm a preacher, right? I preach, and they say, yeah, preach, but your preaching motivates people. And this message of legacy that I've been teaching, they wanted me to be their main source of legacy content.
Wow.
And I said, man, but I do church. And people are going to be hearing this in the gym, and people are going to be hearing this when they're working out before a game, and people are going to be hearing this on the airplanes, going to a business meeting, and the Lord said, no, this is your calling. This is what you've been called to do. The gospel motivates people, and sometimes a simple message can be the one thing that changes someone's life around. So I did it, and man, the benefit I've got from it has been absolutely amazing. The feedback has been amazing. So I created an e-course called Legacy Speakers, where I'm helping people to learn how to take what they do, whether it's in a church space or the business world. I think that we've only saw preaching from the pulpit, and we stopped seeing preaching from multiple platforms. Yeah. But the reality of it is that there's preaching happening in boardrooms, there's preaching happening in courtrooms, right. There's preaching happening in jail, there's preaching happening in prisons, there's preaching happening everywhere. And if I can teach you how to build your legacy and tell your story through every platform, then you're going to be more effective, we'll change more lives, and we'll get more people on the right track.
That's incredible, man. I love watching your journey. I love learning from it. I'm growing every day, just kind of watching how you're doing stuff. And obviously, I ask you questions all the time. I know you're coming out with another course on writing books, and there's
legacy authors.
We talked about this whole book. So hey, if you're on this channel, go to the Connect Church YouTube channel, the 508 podcast. We did a podcast where we talked about Brian's book, Living for Legacy. Incredible book. Go back and watch that. But there's so much you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And if you could give one kind of final thought, some encouragement to these communicators, people that are hungry, want to grow, want to reach people, use their voice and really elevate God's voice and give encouragement in their life, what would you say? Your dying last words to communicators, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I've been telling everybody that one of the main things on my heart right now is I was shocked by the statistic that said one person is committing suicide in America every 12 minutes. And part of the reason why that person's committing suicide is because they don't know their worth. They don't know who they are. They don't know they're valuable. Our job as communicators is to speak to that person and let them know who they are, who they can become, and what's on the inside of them.
Come on, B.
And somebody's one speech away from turning their life around. Someone is one sermon away.
Come on, man.
There's one 20-minute talk that you're going to give that may stop somebody from taking their life. And I'm sorry. I know that you may not feel like you're the perfect communicator. I know that everything may not be in alignment the way you want it to be. You don't have the following that you want. You don't have the opportunities that you think you should have. But we don't have time to sit back and let another person commit suicide in the next 12 minutes because you're afraid to let your voice be heard.
Come on.
And it is your time to step up to the plate. It is your time to speak scared, speak nervous, speak while you're unsure, but speak. Open up your mouth and say something. God has given you a trumpet, your voice. It is the greatest muscle that you have in your body. And one speech, one sermon, one signature talk can change the world. And my question is, what are you waiting for? If you're waiting for perfect to come, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. But you can make a decision today that I've been called for such a time as this, and that what I have to say matters. And the moment you speak, watch out, because heaven's going to back you up and the world's going to be anticipating your arrival.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The Bible says in Proverbs, there is power of life and death in the tongue. Use your tongue, use your words wisely. Communication is such an important skill that all of us need to grow in. And so we want to honor you, Brian. Thank you for investing in us today. Thank you for coming on the channel. It's been a blast.
It's been a blast,
and a
man.
pleasure. And as always, make sure if this video added value to your life, would you send it to a couple people that you know would benefit from this? And if you would, like and subscribe. It would help us and our team so much. We want to get this word out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We love you.